everybody.
We're back.
To Chapter 10, America's Economic Revolution. You may or may not hear my two boys in the background talking. Doing our best to keep them quiet. Here we go.
So.
It's not time to go home, Anthony.
I feel you, man. All right. So the American Economic Revolution is going to happen at the very start of our, well, not the very start.
War of 1812.
Yeah.
Like War of 1812, we got to start relying on ourselves.
This is not happening chronologically. Like the order of chapters is not the order that things
are so bizarre. So we've really shortened this one up. So let's see if we can keep it under 3 hours. The market revolution is about to happen, or it is happening. And the market revolution is when America moves from a predominantly agrarian society to a
non-agrarian. It's more industrial society.
It becomes like capitalism is defined as like our thing.
Yeah. Now we're new. We've been previously just mainly getting our manufactured goods from other things and sending them raw materials. That ain't the thing now. We've been working on this transition for some time now, but now it's like, now we're mostly industrial versus mostly agrarian. So let's see where that takes us.
Yeah, because with, hold on one second, boys, shut it down. Excellent. So we see on this side changing American population. Now, populations are changing largely because of those industries and opportunities. So people are coming over here. We have a lot of what we'll define as old immigrant populations, and those are anybody out there, Irish or German.
Here's your guys.
Hand up because this is you.
This is you now.
Yeah.
We're in it.
We're coming over in the biggest numbers. It's not that there aren't other people coming over, but that's just the biggest.
These are the
number.
two main groups.
And they're working in the factories, doing their thing.
The Irish are the ones that are mainly settling in the big cities where the factories are. Germans are going, they're going past this. Yeah. They're going to St. Louis.
Yeah.
They're doing their thing.
Yeah. But it turns out there are some, what the book is going to call, with a big N on this, Native American parties. And I feel like it should just be like a little N. They're like native-born Americans.
We're not talking about the Native Americans we've been talking about with Jackson or anything like that. These are people that are born here. They're calling themselves Native Americans.
So many. Yes, you do.
So many stickers. Good job.
So we start to see a lot of populations in America, a lot of white guys and white ladies. Let's not leave them out of this.
They're coming too.
And they're like, you know what? We only like native-born white folks. So they're going to start to kind of push back on other populations. And they start to say some like horrible things. Like
really terrible things.
Civilized. They're just like below everyone else.
Like a sentiment that we had previously reserved for actual Native Americans is now being also attributed to our Irish and our German and anybody who was not born in America. Now, all of their backgrounds are the same. The people that are the native-born, quote-unquote, Americans are from Ireland, from these not from Ireland, but from these places that we're now discriminating against. Like, oh, you weren't born here.
Yeah.
This is where we have this thing called nativism, and it's not racism. It's nativism. It's where you're from, where you were born versus the color of your skin or the language that you speak, although that kind of ties into it.
So the Know Nothing Party, well, there is a group called the Native American Party. There's some other groups as well that are called this, and they're basically just like really horrible secret societies during this period.
Supreme Order of the Star-Spangled Banner.
It sounds patriotic.
It sounds...
But it's
like all you're doing is setting off fireworks and singing the national anthem. It's racist.
Yeah, and they want to ban Catholics from office. They're further restricting naturalization process, and we see our first literacy test for voting in America at this moment,
which we'll really dive into when we talk about post-Civil War like treatment of African Americans. But it started here. Catholics. The Catholic Church was where we were like, yes, you're white. Yes, you're a man. How can we hate you?
Yeah. And
Catholic.
And they started saying because people who are Catholic are, they call them like Papists, which is basically that you're going to like the Catholic Pope, more than you will like your country being America, so we don't
Yes.
trust you.
You're going to
Now-
vote for the Pope or not vote.
Yeah, but that even is still an issue in the 1960s when it comes to
Right.
JFK, so
Yeah.
we'll come back to that thought. So
Forgot about
basically, we have this group, the Know Nothings, who are a secret party, and it's not a very good secret, or I shouldn't say party, secret organization, because the way that you would ask if somebody else was in it is you'd be like, you know about this group? And the response is, I know nothing. Like, that's it.
That's lame.
That's super lame. So they actually become a political party, the American Party.
They're like a little third party. We started to see, this is our first third party, isn't it? No. Yes, this is our first third party.
Anti-Masons?
Yeah, anti-Masons would probably do that. Oh, man.
I like them. They're interesting.
All right.
My son just disappeared, everybody. I don't know where that is. Okay. Transportation, communication, and technology. So, real easy on this. Guys,
Innovations.
technology is a booming.
Yes, that's another part of our market revolution is this like still growth of technology and transportation and communications. We've still got carrying on from our American system. We've got our canals, we've got our roads, we've got some railroads, really like basic railroads, nothing this is really just like a jumping off point for like the super cool steam engines we're gonna have later where we get our robber barons from. Ooh, can't wait. So exciting. But that's we're spreading those around, we're building them.
So even though it's like technology,
What is going on?
we need to think about it also as how it makes America more democratic in the sense of it incorporates more people into the franchise.
Right.
So we have the telegraph, like that's interesting technology, but it also spreads information very quickly.
Yeah.
Associated Press is using like wire services in the same way, and we start to see like some newspapers really pop up in America at this point that get information out super fast to people.
Mm-hmm.
But
This only makes the sectionalism work.
so much worse.
I said work. It doesn't make it work. No, it doesn't work ever. Worse.
Yeah, so you
Yeah.
publish what you want in your region and get
Exactly.
that out to people.
It's that information bias, baby. It's never gonna stop. Yeah, so this newspaper that's circulated predominantly in the South, they're gonna publish Southern ideals. And this
Right.
newspaper that's circulated predominantly in the North, they're gonna publish Northern ideals, and it's just fueling the beliefs of your own section, fueling sectionalism and just growing the divide.
I was listening to Neil deGrasse Tyson,
You're
Again,
you're always
I'm a
listening
huge
to him.
fan.
Big fan.
and he was talking about the difference between like absolute truths and personal truths. And we kind of follow personal truths like in our papers and whatnot. We surround ourselves with people who think the same way. My son came back. So yeah, it's more democratic in that more people feel like they have a say in politics or they're connected with it. But it also leads to like, we can sell more newspapers by saying bad things about people. Mm-hmm. Excellent. Horrible. It's horrible.
It's not good, but moving on. So recruiting a native, we should really lowercase all of these natives, the native workforce. We don't mean Native American, we don't mean now moved past the Mississippi Native Americans. Oh, bye, Mom. We mean people that were born in America. What we see is we've talked about discrimination a little bit, like we just didn't like them, but we're going to see it here in the workforce a lot. Irish need not apply. That's so bad. Like literally people would be like help wanted unless you're Irish, like don't come here then.
Yeah, so we're
Or
forcing
German.
this population into that lower economic class.
Right.
And then we're making fun of them for being there.
Exactly. And we're gonna be like, you're poor. You should
don't
just
like you. You're
you
not
should
one of
just
us."
try and work harder, but they can't. We're not giving them jobs. And so we see the nativism, we see the class system starting to grow with our people who are foreign born being disproportionately in the lower class.
And then we have
All
the
good things.
transformation of American agriculture. So
So-
I find this, if you know me, you know I love the farmers. And this is one of those situations.
She's
So
a yeoman farmer.
farms are changing rapidly. Farms are changing rapidly. And one of the things that we start to see happening is that farms are becoming more industrial in the sense of like 1830. So like,
Yeah, don't get
too
crazy.
right? But we see things like the development of the McCormick Reaper and whatnot. And that's just makes it kind of faster, but that's even at the tail
Yeah.
end of all of this.
Very end of this.
I mean, we're talking about people still cutting down things with like those
Machetes.
the Grim Reaper blades, the
Like
scythes.
a scythe, that's what it's
The
called.
scythe.
Non-mechanical reaper.
Interesting note, before the Civil War, they use a single-bladed scythe. After, it's a multi-bladed scythe. Guys.
Oh, it's very
big time.
fancy.
It's very fancy and terrifying because that's a scary Grim Reaper.
Yes.
So because farms are becoming a bit different in...
Did you know one of your kids are outside?
Hold, please.
Hold, please. Okay,
So we're back.
sorry about that.
All right. So we're talking about just plain old scythes, cutting down thing.
Oh, yeah, we talked way too long about that.
yeah.
But it's fine. So agriculture is going to change in that it becomes a little more industrialized. They get bigger, and so you really need more people. They just sort of get taken over by corporations a little bit.
It's no longer like it's never resembling the Jeffersonian farmer that like he wanted. And the growth of the plantation system and the growth of the commercial agriculture, that's what's going to influence the creation of the things like the McCormick Reaper and the John Deere tractor, because they're born out of necessity. Much like the not transatlantic cable, but the telegraph cable.
Yeah.
Like, because people were spreading across the country, we need to have things that can connect people. And that's going to be the railroads and the telegraph. So anyway, back to this. You were going to say
So
something?
we have a displacement of a lot of families, and also we have a displacement, particularly of young women during this period. So the Lowell system is a textile mill system, and young women, unmarried, are going to be living in their housing and just hanging out there until they're ready to leave. The problem is, once you leave, you're considered to be a really low-class woman.
Because you
often
had a job.
You had a job, and oftentimes you are considered very similar to a prostitute.
Yeah.
And people don't want to, like,
Because people were
Marry
paying
you.
you, and that immediately.
it wasn't associated with the family.
Right.
So it's sort of sad. It's sort of sad. It's really sad.
It's it's
And then
all right.
those women go back into the cities and can't get married because nobody wants to marry.
They're
a
tainted
woman.
now.
Nobody wants to marry a woman. Nobody wants to marry a Lowell
Lowell woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they can't get work. Any work they get is so low paying. And so guess what? This is like a self-fulfilling prophecy. We actually see an increase in prostitution because of something like this. So, way to bring the ladies down.
Just typical.
Yeah.
That's gonna be like. You're either gonna be like Lowell system or you're gonna be like cult of domesticity. But I don't know if we're there yet. No.
Might be. So,
No, we're
there
not.
yet. So this is just kind of what we were already talking about, though. I don't think we need to do much with like national trade unions. We do
No.
see some like. I don't even know that you would call them unions. That's
The legality of people to unionize happens here. That's Commonwealth versus Woodward, but like that's not really like a big deal. The labor union movement really comes later for the second
1870s.
industrial revolution. This is our baby first one. But the ability for people to unionize, like you can get together, like no promises on what you're doing. That's coming here. But those unions they're not including immigrant workforce. They're people upset at the fact that like wages are being driven down because of the immigrant workforce, which we'll get to. So just what we need to know is really like, especially in these like unskilled labor factory positions where you don't really need to have an education or a background to like perform the duties, like you're not going to get the best working conditions. It's long hours, it's low pay.
And you're easily replaceable.
And you're very easily replaceable because there's no
Yeah.
skill involved. There's no training involved.
And
There's
we
no like
call this,
apprenticeship.
Free labor, but we just want to clarify. Free labor means that you're not a slave. It doesn't mean that like you're literally free. Not getting paid. When we talk about free labor versus slave labor, because some people sometimes mistakenly think like, oh, well, slaves don't cost the plantation owner money, and number one, that's not true. And number two, that's not what we mean. So slave labor is in the South, free labor is in the North.
Some people do say free versus paid labor. Like free of charge to the thing. But some people do say that.
Dangerous.
But don't do that. Don't fall into the trap, guys.
Yeah, so it's unfortunate in that the immigrants are really used as just a commodity. They aren't skilled. It doesn't matter. Trying to go home eventually.
Right.
So So, oh well. All right, factory system and artisan tradition, just basically like we start emphasizing unskilled labor versus artisan work.
Right, because we're moving towards that industrialized work, and you don't need to have that apprenticeship, that like years learning a
Yeah.
craft type thing. So our workforce is becoming more and more unskilled versus skilled, and that's gonna play out. I feel like a lot more in the second industrial revolution, like not this
Oh,
one.
sure.
Yeah.
All right.
So these things don't matter.
This is it, ladies.
Here we
and
go.
gents. Okay, so women in the cult of domesticity. This has a lot to do with like. There's a lot of information on female education, New Girls' Room, and all that. It all sort of goes together. So
Yeah.
we talked about women who were really having to work. Like middle income people, the man was the breadwinner. Women were in charge of the domestic sphere.
The cult of domesticity.
The cult of domesticity, and that if you were a woman and you had to work, then you were not part of this middle class or upper class.
You were a low girl.
Yeah.
You were not expected to go anywhere like family wise.
You're just it was
Low breeding,
low yeah.
outcome.
So yeah.
Cycle of poverty.
So women, because just like with Republican motherhood, we have to sort of define for ourselves what place we're going to be in, or side note, have men define that for us. This is one of those moments. And
We
so
is too many people.
The cult of domesticity tells women again, like, listen, to be a proper middle class woman,
You
must
belong
be
here.
in the home, nurturing the future. Which, of course, yeah, like
That's
I
an
can
important role.
multitask,
Yeah.
though. Like, give me lots of stuff to do.
Don't get me wrong. It's valuable
Absolutely.
and an important thing to do, but it's more of the like you can't do anything else versus like this is like that's bad and this is good. It's like this is good, but and you can't go anywhere else or else you're not gonna do
You're
anything.
gonna, yeah, you get that stigma with you.
Yep.
Leisure activities,
Just chilling
just racist stuff,
because
like the menstrual
just
shows.
racist stuff.
So menstrual shows are just sort of, they're just like theater in a way, but they're like comic.
They're like traveling, like outdoor.
Yeah.
Wasn't there like a minstrel show happening in like Huck Finn or Tom Sawyer or
probably,
whatever?
yeah.
I mean, that's like
That would make sense.
makes sense.
So menstrual shows though are in blackface.
Mad racist.
So racist, so inappropriate, and the reason that we critique it, obviously, because hello, that's awful. But the second reason would be that it stereotypes and it caricatures African Americans.
Right.
And the caricature of the African Americans is always a like unintelligent, sort of childlike.
Right.
figure.
Yeah, like goofy, not at all like.
No intelligence.
No
Well, we got
intelligence.
Nat Turner coming up.
Oh.
Just wait for that.
Lest you forget, slave
And-
revolts.
P.T. Barnum.
Greatest Showman, doing this thing. Ladies and gents, this is the moment you waited for. Have you ever seen that movie?
I haven't seen it, guys.
Oh my gosh, it's so good. We'll come back to that. But just side note, when we get to like Jim Crow laws, Jim Crow was a character in the minstrel shows. Like the main character of those shows that were Jim Crow was the caricature of the black man. So that's just a little thing there for you. So yeah, super quick. Was that it, right? Leisure.
It ain't that quick.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry,
How
a lot
did
of
we
that
do
was about my kids. So we are going to leave you here. The children are back. Hear them in the background. We're in a little Pink Floyd.
We're gonna play you out
plays
here.
There we go.
All right.
Next time on Where's My Latte? Probably more stuff that's out of order, to be honest
Yeah.
with you.
Antebellum society. The whole thing.
All right, guys.
Bye,
Have a good
guys.
one.
See you later.